Right, so I wanted to do a video about letting you sort of pre-teen sort of kids watch horror movies for the first time, because we're in spooky season now. They're going to be sort of wanting to get that spooky feeling. They might want to watch their first horror film sort of like now. And when I say pre-teens, I'm talking like in the UK year 7, 8 and 9. So we're talking 11, 12, 13 year olds, possibly even a very brave 10-year-old, I don't know. But that's totally up to you as a parent. It's up to you at what sort of age, if they start asking questions, they want to see these films, why you should do it. You can either use the certificates, as in like, well, that's a 15, so you can only watch that, or you can maybe sort of blur those lines a little bit, which is what I've done with my kids, because my kids were coming home curious. Their friends had seen films, they wanted to know what this film was, that film was. So I kind of started them on certain films to try and build them up to watching something scarier. So for instance, my kids wanted to watch the movie It with Pennywise the Clown, because all their friends at school would watch it just to come on Netflix. So we started to do what I'm going to show you now, the sort of trajectory to get them to there, because to throw them straight in the deep end with a super scary film, whether it be Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that, a build up is better. So I'll explain now what I did and how the sort of setting are used. So start with your setting. So obviously they're home, they want to watch a scary movie, you decide you're going to sit down and you're going to watch it with them. The best thing to do is kind of get them to feel like they're watching a scary movie. So if it's daytime you want to do it, draw the curtains so it's a little bit darker in your living room, but have like a light source. So it'll be the outside light we're coming through whatever doorway. If it's nighttime you want to do this, then especially if it's like the autumn like it is now, obviously that it's getting darker earlier, then have the lights off in the room, but leave the hallway light on. So there's a big light source coming in. That way they can still see you and everything going around them. So it's not total pitch black, but there's still kind of like a comfortable lighting in the room. Then make sure you're sitting close to them, because if you've got a young, I said like a young kid, like 11, 12 years old, they're watching a scary film, they might just want that closeness to their parents. So make sure you're sitting on the sofa next to them. If it's like a two-parent family, like mum and dad sort of thing, or wherever you are, then sit either side of them so they feel that comfort. But most importantly, give them a pillow. So when it's starting to get a bit scary, they can do this. And if it gets too much, the pillow comes up. This is something I've always done with my kids. It's something I did when I was younger. There was always something there just in case you get a little bit too much thing. Also, the way you interact with your kids during the movie. So please don't be one of those parents that goes, "Wah," every so often during the film, because that will set the kid on edge. It's too much, right? They're watching a film for the first time. You want to be interested in that film and enjoying that film. You don't want to keep scaring them. I know it's tempting, especially as like a dad, just to scare them. Please try and avoid that if it's the first scary movie, because you want them to enjoy their first scary movie experience. You don't want to like totally like spaz them out. Right, so got the pillow, got the thing, so we're all ready to go. I would recommend maybe having a drink on the side, but don't let them hold it while watching the movie, because this has happened in my house with a box of popcorn where something made them jump and the popcorn everywhere, and that you have to sort of stop the movie to pick up stuff, and it just goes a bit nuts. So I'd recommend food, snacks on the side a little bit. So now you've got them sort of set up in the room. You can start your movie. Now, there is one particular movie. So we're looking at kids that are age 11, 12, 13. That's what this video is predominantly about, the pre-teen. They want to watch the scarier films. They also want a film they can go back and tell their friends, I've just seen this. And it makes them feel a bit more confident, a bit more street cred, if you would, that they've seen a film that their friends are, oh, that's important. So like for 11, 12, 13, saying that their scary movie they watched was Hocus Pocus, it's not going to have the impact that the first film I'm going to tell you that I think is the best film for that age group to watch, I'm going to show you now. So the film, I think the first scary film that I think you should show any pre-teen, so that's 11, 12, 13, is actually quite modern, right? It's this one, Megan. And the reason I say this film is the best one to start with is because they will identify with it. All kids know about technology and stuff like that, and Megan is essentially kind of a sort of look at technology taking over kids' lives, as well as AI and all those sort of things. So it's a lot of stuff that kids are very much aware of, especially if you've got 11, 12, 13-year-olds. They know all about AI, they know all about TikTok and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So they know about AI, they know about Chat GPT. I don't know about that, but they do. So they know about these things. And Megan kind of focuses on all of those things. So it's essentially about a young girl whose parents die and she goes to live with her aunt. Now, her aunt happens to be like a robotics engineer. She works for a toy company and she designs a toy called Megan, which is kind of like, imagine if you had a mobile phone that can walk and talk and stuff, but you also made it friendly. So the idea is it's basically this living doll that's roughly about the same size as your child, and they interact with each other, they bond, they become friends, they have like a pairing, so the doll pair with the child, and then they'll become like real close friends. It's almost like having an AI friend but in physical form, which is all good. But as I said, this is a scary movie after all. The doll starts to do things it shouldn't be doing in order to protect the girl it's with. There's a girl called Katie she gets paired with, and the doll starts to sort of protect her in ways it shouldn't. So it does things it shouldn't do, like kill, for instance, and harm things and do things. So that's what the doll set's about doing. However, this film is made, I believe it was made for the preteen. So in America, this film had a PG-13 rating, which basically is a little bit above what we have 12A. But PG-13 means like any kid can go in to see it as long as they're like accompanied by an adult if they're at that sort of age. Over here in the UK, we don't have PG-13. We have 12A, which means 12 and accompanied by an adult. And then we jump straight to 15. So kids couldn't necessarily go to the cinema to watch this movie. However, I think it's a pretty good movie for a start horror film because there are horror elements in it, some spooky elements. There's also a little bit of comedy in it to lighten that mood a little bit as the kids are watching their first horror film. They need that bit of comedy to try and lighten it up a little bit because otherwise it can get too dark, too deep and too scary. One thing, obviously, being a parent, especially being a dad, if you've especially got a daughter as well, anything like sex based will make you feel very uncomfortable in a room with your child. This film doesn't really have anything like that. There's one scene you could kind of argue, you think, oh, as an adult, you think, oh, what is going on there? But the children won't understand it like that. You'll see it and think, oh, he's just trying to hold her down. But it's sad about the way the kid's really creepy. It's basically this creepy kid gets hold of, like, he's trying really bullying Katie, so Megan comes to the rescue sort of thing, and the kid sort of grabs hold of Megan and pins her down, and it's kind of like a weird sort of like, an adult would see it as, that's a bit like he's a future predator type thing, and then Megan sort of deals with him in the way she deals with them. She basically kills him in a sense. She makes him look like an accident, but she kills him. So I'm giving you spoilers because you're the adult. So, and also another thing I recommend with any film ever, you sit and watch it before you show your children. Simple as that. So you sit down, get a copy of Megan yourself. I think it's probably on some streaming thing somewhere. I think it might be on Amazon. You'll have to pay for it on Amazon though. But get your copy of Megan, sit down and watch it maybe the night before and look for anything that might set your kids off. I don't like to use the word trigger, but you know what I mean? Something that might trigger their fear. So if your child doesn't like dogs, for instance, there's a dog in Megan at one point. If you think that will affect your child, like say your dog's recently died, there's a dog in Megan that gets killed. You don't see it happen, but you kind of you get you know it's happening basically. So the dog dies. So if that might be something that might trigger your child a bit, if it's too raw for the kid to know, oh no, there's a dog dying, my dog's just died and there's a dog dying in the film. So as I said, always watch the movies first, but this one is the best one I feel to start your child on, as in horror movies. Back in my day, it was a film like Gremlins, and movies like, yeah, Gremlins was a movie I started with. Poltergeist was another movie I started with. So these are films that are scary, but they're not mega scary. But kids today won't get the same feeling from those because these films were made back in the 80s when I was that age. But now, obviously, we're in the modern times where you kind of need modern themes, things that are said to identify with. They can easily identify with Megan because it's a child roughly about the same age as them that gets this AI thing. And we all know kids and their gadgets. That's why I think this film works so well. The gore levels are really low. I mean, this is the unseen version. So it's basically got a little bit extra gore in it that wasn't at the cinema. But they also had the theatrical version on as well. I was just watching the theatrical version. There's not much extra gore, to be fair, in the gory version. You're watching, like, nothing happens extra, but it's just a little bit like there's an ear pulling scene. We actually see the ear get ripped off. And in the original theatrical version, you see it get pulled really far. But in the gory version, the ear comes off, sort of thing. And I think there's another scene with a jet washer where she jet washes this mean old neighbour in the face and like part of her face. You sort of see it getting jet washed in the face in the theatrical version, but in the unseen gory version of it. You see part of a face all like that, but it's nothing mega. It's quite tame, and that's the thing about Megan. It's also quite a tame film when it comes to sort of the gore. There's not much gore in it. Again, it's mainly like suspense, and the end when sort of Megan goes on a rampage sort of thing, it's done, and there's a few jokes thrown in at the same time. So this is the perfect film to start your preteen in a horror film. It's a film they can go out of school and say, I watched Megan the other night, that was amazing, like it's quite creepy, blah, blah, blah. They can tell their friends about it, and it's not a bad one. So that's the first one I'd start them with. If they survive this, we'll say survive it, if they do well with it, then obviously then you can go on to other films. Another recommendation, even though I said about 80s things not working, is if you go on YouTube and just type in Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it's the 13-minute long one. Now, you probably all know the song Thriller. This is Thriller, you know, that's on there. And that's quite a scary thing, but it's also quite a fun thing. And they probably know the song because these songs pop up year to year on Halloween anyway. But it's basically Michael Jackson starts with his girlfriend, turns into a werewolf, scares her. There's a really good jump scene as well. He's like, go away, like as he's turning into a werewolf. And then he goes on to sort of like become a zombie, and there's a music video part, and all the zombies are dancing. So it's quite light-hearted as well, but it's also scary. So that's another good one to start your kids off. Maybe even before you watch Megan, maybe you could go, let's watch this and just see where they are. Because if they like get terrified by Michael Jackson's Thriller, maybe they're not ready for a horror movie. So kind of like gauge it that way. So we've done Megan. Now we sort of want to move on to something next. So that'll be the first one they watch. Now you want to move them on to something scarier. So maybe they're a bit older. Maybe this is the 13 sort of, the 12 to 13 category. So now they want to show off in front of their friends, I've just seen this film. And I was trying to wrap my brains at films, again, where sex is kind of a thing that you don't want to watch with your children. Because I said, it makes me very uncomfortable. If anything pops on the telly and I'm like, oh, that's a bit much. Even if I'm watching like EastEnders and they get a bit too romantic, I'm like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. It's just being a dad, I think, and having daughters. That's what it is. So I look for films that don't have that type of tone in them at all. But I also look for something that would be scary, but not so much gory, because gore can affect you well, and violence can affect you, as well as what I mentioned before, the romantic side of films. But scary, creepy is a good thing because it will affect you. It might give you nightmares, might creep you out, might make you scared of things. So the next two films, the next film I would go for, and you might think I'm a bit mad for this because it is a bit of a jump from Megan to this film, but the next film I would go for, and the next film I did go for with my kids, was this one, The Conjuring 2. Now you're probably thinking, why The Conjuring 2? Why not go Conjuring 1 for a start? Well, the Conjuring films, if you watch them separately, you don't need to have watched 1 to understand 2, vice versa. All you need to know is the Warrens are paranormal investigators and they investigate paranormal things. That's all you need to know. So each installment of The Conjuring, you could just watch it on its own, except for maybe the last one, but you could generally watch it on its own, see it for the story that it is, and if then you want to expand into that universe, you can. It's up to you. But this one, to me, has the most kind of going on. So it's got the most sort of action, the most like creepy characters. I mean, she's in it. So I think The Conjuring 2 is a good one because, again, it's about kids in a house. So the kids can identify with being that sort of age and maybe sort of like having siblings and stuff like that. And maybe that's how they can identify as well. They can identify with like doing things to kind of impress people in a way as well. There's a lot of that in this film. And you've got like the idea of a single parent family as well, which can identify with a lot of people out there as well. And it's creepy stuff happening in a normal house. That gives that sense of realism, so they can identify all the characters in it. Even though it was set way back when this happened, it still has a very modern feel to the movie. So it's a quite a good one. So The Conjuring 2 would be a great one to start into a more darker sort of horror thing. But again, the Conjuring movies, not much violence in them really. Not much violence. It's all to do with atmosphere and vibe, which is kind of what the kids, they want a scary movie. They want to send a chill up their spine. They want to be a bit scared and a little bit freaked out. This is the perfect film for that because it gives you that freak. It gives you the jump scares. It gives you the creepy. Oh my God, what's going to come next? And it's a pillow film where you're like, oh my God. And you get that build up to something. So it's like, there's one scene where he's in the basement and he's trying to fix a water pipe because the basement's flooded. and you've got the mum in the house with the torch like that. She suddenly sees something over there, but she can't really see it, probably because it's behind something, and she's trying to tell him that there's something behind him. He's looking, can't see it, and then this creepy figure comes out of the water. That's the kind of scariness we're going for in here. And the old jump scare where like something will make you jump because you'll hear something or see something. It's like that, and you get this genuine threat. It's got a good story in it as well about like this family that are. It's a true story as well. So if you really want to creep them out, you can tell me it's based on a true story, or a true story, as I like to say. But it is based on a true story, so it can creep them out. But then there's an aftercare, what you do afterwards. And I'll go into that after we've talked about the next film as well. So that's another film I think you should watch with the kids. Again, do the same situation. Low light, sit around. If they get scared at any point, they're like, oh my God, I'm getting too scared. Open the curtains, let the light come in, turn on the lights in your house. Make them feel a bit more comfortable. Maybe stop the film, see how they're feeling. If they don't want to continue with it, don't continue with it. If they do want to keep going with it, and keep going with it. They might say, like, I don't want to keep going with it, but can we try again tomorrow, or can we try again in a couple of hours? They might want to do that. That's another thing as well. So if you're watching a scary movie and they sort of think, I want to stop now, stop it, but then ask if they want to go back to it. And then you can use some of my aftercare things I'm going to talk to you about in a minute to sort of like get them feeling more comfortable about the movie. I've just noticed I keep looking over here because normally my camera lens is here, but it's over here today because I've got the phone around the wrong way. So I've just noticed that's distracting me a bit. Sorry about that. I'm trying to look at you, but I'm looking over there. Right. So that's the Conjuring. I think The Conjuring is a great film. It's generally a story about a haunted house, and it's this family. It's a single mum and 3 kids, I want to say, maybe 4 kids, living in a house, and they start getting terrorized by a poltergeist, and weird things start happening. Sorry. And then there's this paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren, that are real life paranormal investigators, come along and help the family out to sort of get rid of this, what turns out to be a demon in the house. And you get appearances from the nun, which goes on to have her own movies as well, but she looks terrifying. She's a great figure of like a villain figure. It is brilliant. There's a couple of scenes where, as I said, jump scares in this thing. There's a scene where the little girl, she goes downstairs and she sort of goes down the stairs, does what she does, and comes back up. And as she walks back up the stairs, just in the corner of the screen, there's someone sitting in a chair, like a ghost sitting in a chair. And it's one of those where you're watching her, and there's something you clock it, oh, and it makes you jump. Even though it's there for a little bit of time before you see it and jump. It's a very clever scene. So again, it gives you the creep factor. But again, there's no romantic-y stuff in this film, as in the wrongest, the naughtiest side of the romance. There's none of that in this film. There's romance, obviously, as in like love between the husband and wife, but there's no scenes of the actions of that, if you know what I mean. So there's none of that in this film. Again, the violence isn't that much. There's not much violence in this film. There's a couple of like kids getting thrown around and stuff like that, but there's no real sort of like bloody guts and stuff violence. There's kind of like, you kind of get the gist of it, but you don't see like Terrifier, blood everywhere and everything. So it's nothing like that. So it is quite a nice way of doing the film. So that's my dog, if you're wondering what that noise was. He's up in the air, he is. So yeah, it's a good film to sort of like sit and watch, because it's not too much on that scale. It's not too much on that scale. It keeps it a nice mid shift, but there are a lot of jump scares. So when they go back to their school the next time and they're like, oh my gosh, I watched The Conjuring 2. This happened. They've got stuff to tell their friends about. And I was jumping. It was so scary. I almost didn't want to watch it, but I had to watch it. I had to find out what happened at the end. That's why The Conjuring 2 is good. So that'll be the next one I'll go for. I'll go Megan and then Conjuring. Then you can kind of open up a bit. But there is a particular film I will go for. And I mentioned this a bit earlier, I think. I think I mentioned it earlier. It being The Word. So I'm going to go for the next one. Okay. And this is jumping big time now. Is It. Chapter 1. Specifically Chapter 1 of It. So that's the first part. So It, as you possibly know, is the story of Pennywise the Clown. So you've already got this iconic character that if the kids go into school and say, I watched Pennywise, the other kids will be like slightly impressed. But also it's another film as well where there is a little bit of blood and gore. There is references to naughty stuff. And there's even a scene later on, which is one you're going to have to look at. Definitely, as I said, always watch these movies before you show them to your children. Make sure you've seen it first so you can recognise stuff in it. So there are some issues. So basically, the thing that kids can identify is kids riding around, being friends, and then having this adversary they have to work together to try and stop in Pennywise. And it's a very creepy, very atmospheric film, but it's also funny. There's a lot of good humour in this film, and I think that's the also in The Conjuring a bit as well. There's a bit of humour in The Conjuring as well, but it has the kids in it are hilarious, especially parts. There's a guy that was in Stranger Things. He's hilarious as well. I think he played Mike. I want to say he played Mike in Stranger Things, the kid with the glasses. He's hilarious. The kid playing Eddie is brilliant in it. He's so funny. He's a sort of like almost hypochondriac type kid. And the stuff they come out with, some of their scenes, you are literally wetting yourself with laughter. That's the thing about it. One minute you're laughing your head off, next minute you're like terrified. And there are some good jump scares. There is a little bit of gore in this one as we go on. I mean, Pennywise does kill things. And the good thing to do with Pennywise as well, when you're watching the first It, the very sort of early scene, the first sort of kill is a young kid being dragged into the sewer and killed. And it's kind of like a litmus test to this movie. If your child is watching this film and the second that scene happens where it's killed Georgie, this kid, second Georgie dies, if the kid's like, no, I'm done, turn it off, then you know we've gone too far too soon and we need to go back to something a bit more tamer, you know. But everyone has a level. And as I said before, you need to know your child. So if you know your child is terrified of clowns, he's like, his worst nightmare would be seeing this guy. That is his worst nightmare. Don't show them, or her not worst nightmare, do not show them the film It, because they are not going to be ready for it. It's going to be too much for them. So if they have a phobia of clowns, don't show them It. Just like if they have a phobia of spiders, don't show them Arachnophobia. If they have a phobia of crocodiles, don't show them Lake Placid. A phobia of going in the water, don't show them Jaws. You know, there's certain, you need to, you know your children, you know what they like, what they definitely don't like. So I'd recommend It as kind of like a later stages after you've watched Megan, after you've watched The Conjuring 2, then you go to It. That way you've built them up. As I said, you have to do it in stages. You might watch a few different films between that. So you go from like Megan, maybe Five Nights at Freddy's could be another one. That's another one that's not over the top. It's kind of at the level with Megan, and they'll probably identify Five Nights at Freddy's because it's a famous computer game, and it's kind of like a pop cultural thing as well, Five Nights at Freddy's, so they kind of know that, like the music and stuff. It's popular with kids. I had no idea about Five Nights at Freddy's until like there was a trailer come on YouTube. My stepson come running and going, "Oh my god, there's a Five Nights at Freddy's movie!" And I was like, "What is that?" And he showed me. I then went and watched the film at the cinema. Thought it was okay because again it was a 15, but it could have been a lot lower if they just tweaked it a bit. So I watched it at the cinema. And then when it came out on DVD, I was like, "Yes, you can watch it. Here we go." So that, as I said, that's how you do it. Same with Megan. I went to watch Megan at the cinema, and then when it came out on DVD, I said to kids, like, this is a scary film. You guys can probably watch it if you want to sit down. And I did the pre sort of ritual getting ready for the movie. So then, yeah, so it's basically a film about a group of kids that have a load of their friends start dying in this around the town, and one of the kids' younger brothers dies. And then it's them trying to work out what's killing everyone. And when they find out, because it starts to come for them as well, because this It creature can, like, it's Pennywise the clown. And he can haunt you in different ways. So he uses your imagination to try and lure you in so he can get you. It's a great film. Again, it will play on the kids' sort of like nerves and situations. And it is a big leap. But again, it's a 15 movie, so it's not over the top with the sort of blood, guts and gore. So there is one scene in it where you might want to be a bit careful with, because it's to do with a dad doing something he shouldn't be doing with his daughter, sort of thing. You don't get smashed into your face, but you know, you kind of work, especially as an adult, what is actually happening, and you're kind of like, oh, as an adult. But I think hopefully a 13-year-old wouldn't see that. But if the 13-year-old has passed with stuff like this for whatever reason, you know, or this is something that affects them for whatever reason, maybe not this film. I said, as an adult, you watch it yourself first, and then you know what will affect your children in a way that maybe won't affect other kids in that same way. So that's one that I would recommend, because again, it's this iconic character. Your kids will then go back into school at 13 and be like, oh, I saw Pennywise the clown. Oh my God, that film was great. And then the other friends will be like, oh my God, I watched it too. It was amazing. It was scary. You might have another kid saying, I've not seen that. Oh my God, I can't believe you guys have watched that. That's awesome, sort of thing. It's a street cred thing as well. To say you've seen this movie would help them in their street cred environment. I know we shouldn't push them to try and like appease their peers at school, but it sometimes does help. Like, I was a kid at school that didn't follow football, didn't know anything, but I watched these scary movies. So then I could go and say, well, I watched this scary movie. And they'll be like, wow. And they think I was like good because I watched that. Nothing else I can identify with these other kids with, because I was a bit of a weird loner sort of kid. So I couldn't identify with like the football or anything like that. I mean, I still like wrestling when everyone stopped watching wrestling. So I still like wrestling now, to be fair. But that's why it's sort of like I struggle. But if a kid said to me, "Oh, like you're a bit of a wimp," I said, "Yeah, I watched this film. I can tell you this happened in it." Blah blah blah. And they'll be like, "Oh wow, well then you're not so much a wimp because you can watch these films." That helped me. All right, that's how I survived secondary school, by knowing stuff about films and talking to kids about films. That was the only way I could do it. So I would recommend to watch it. Chapter 1 though. Chapter 2 they might get lost with the adult bit, but chapter 1 you only need to watch that one and it will freak them out at the same time as it's got a good ending as well. It's got a great ending, a great story, and you're done. So once you've watched your horror films, so whatever films you watched, I kind of go through an aftercare kind of routine with the kids. So watching, say we're watching It. When the film finishes, the first thing I do is say to them like, "Oh, what do you think of the film?" We have a discussion about the film. We talk about the film. Get what is in their head out. All right. So you have a discussion about the movie, decide what they liked about the movie, what they didn't like about the movie, what was their best part, worst part, what scared them. Then talk to them a little bit about stuff. So like, say there's a scene where Georgie gets pulled into the sewer. Explain that's actually a stunt double there. It's not a real kid getting pulled in. They use CGI to do a lot of it, or maybe special effects, that sort of thing. Show them the actor that played him. I forgot his first. He's one of the Skarsgårds. They're a massive acting family. Show a picture of him without the makeup on, so they can see what he does. There's actually there's clips on like YouTube, TikTok, and all that of him at a talk show saying about how he does the smile. He tips his lip down like that and then brings his face up. He talks about that, so it's a good way to show them like it's not real. It's not real things, and you can see the actor talking about the film a little bit. Just so maybe show them. So this is how he looks like when he does it without the makeup on and stuff. Show them him what he really looks like, because he's kind of like a nice guy as well. So it will help them see that sort of disconnect, that this is the fantasy to the reality. It will help disconnect. That's a good thing to do. And obviously, if there's anything that freaks them out about the film, so I didn't like that scene because of this, maybe talk to them about it. If there's something like again the scene with the girl and her dad that's a little bit weird, if they say, "Oh, what was that about?" Maybe have a discussion like sometime, like you know how to talk to your children. I'm not going to tell you how to talk to your children, but discuss things like that. Don't let it sit up there, because that's the worst thing you can do. So let them talk about it. With Megan, like if they start talking about like, "Oh, what if like would that happen if they built these robots? Could they go mad? Could this happen?" Explain to them no, because they'll put safeguards in place. They won't let things like that happen. Like explain that there's like films that have dealt with this before and it's all crazy and over the top, and not to panic, like, because you'd like to think we wouldn't put things like that in place. So reassure them that these stuff won't happen. Like their Labubu's not going to go mad and try and get them or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Like I was about to say, what's the name of that toy back in the Furbies? That's not going to start attacking you. You know, that's a bit dated, but it's, you know, that sort of thing. Reassure them. The next thing to do is obviously turn all the lights back on, so that after the film's finished, the lights go back on, they can get back into the real world, and show them something funny afterwards. So we have kind of a tradition in my house that after we watch a scary movie all together as a family, we then put on something funny. It's normally Mr. Bean. We have this thing about putting Mr. Bean on after we're watching a scary movie. We've always done it because it will lighten everything up. It's something silly, ridiculous. So put on like Mr. Bean, maybe their favourite cartoon, whatever they like a lot. Put that on. Put on a bit of like YouTube or something like saying before, so they're not going straight from the sofa to bed, because then they're going to be laying in bed. It's going to be going over in their head. But give them something lighter to sort of break that. Like put a distance between the film they've just watched and bed. Don't be like, right, movie's over, Pennywise is dead, he terrified the hell out of you, go to bed, because that's too much. It's like they'll be laying there at night, and the things we're going to hear. As I said, talking to them is key. So having that little chat before anything else happens, so you can sort of like break them away from the film, to separate from reality, bring them back to the sort of real world. That is what you need to do as a parent. It is vital that after they watch their first scary movies, it's fine. After they've watched a few, it doesn't matter so much anymore, because they sort of do that themselves. They'll maybe talk to the cinema, maybe talk to you straight away about it. Maybe it could become a nice bonding point between you and the kids. You know, any film you watch, even if you're watching the Minecraft movie, afterwards talk to them about it. Get a little dialogue going. I think that's brilliant. Like, I remember going to the cinema with my eldest daughter. She's now in her 20s. But we went and watched Wonder Woman, and we sat there together and watched it, and we enjoyed it. It's the first one. And there's a scene when we come out, we sort of started walking back, and she was like, you know that scene when they're at no man's land and all the people were saying they couldn't cross no man's land? Well, Wonder Woman crossed it because it was no man's land and she was a woman. And my daughter was she went, how old was she? She must have been in her teens. And she'd worked all this out herself from watching this movie, like, and it was in her head. So she was like talking to me about it. And we had a discussion all about like no man's land, World War One and the trenches and all that stuff. And on the way home, and she was talking about sort of kind of got into a women's rights sort of thing, like how this woman proved to the men and all that. And it's kind of empowering for her as being a young girl as well. And it was kind of a good moment for me because I'm thinking, oh, we can have a discussion about films now. Like she's got to that age where we can actually have a proper discussion. And it was great. And I think that's what you should do with any film. You should have your kids watch a family film, whatever that film may be, the new Marvel one, or I don't know, what else is out? Whatever's called, Wicked, those Wicked films, like a lot of people like them. Sit and talk about them afterwards. Have a discussion. What was your favourite character? What was the best bit of the film? Engage, enjoy it, have fun, bond, you know. But yeah, definitely the horror films do that because it will break down that, oh my God, was that real? Was that real? Especially if you watch something like The Conjuring, obviously based on a true story. So they might be like, well, if that really happened, and say, well, some people think it wasn't real. Some people don't agree, think it was fake. Some people think they were sort of like lying. They just made up the story. Break that fear. Break it down a bit for them so it's not so real. So that also a lot of stuff in that movie didn't really happen. Like they over dramatize it, like the nun stuff. She in the real story, there's no Valak the demon nun. That's not in the story. They added that to make it more scary in the movie. Explain that happens, or explain that. Well, often when films say they're based on a true story, it's kind of like 50% or less true. The rest of it's made up. In whatever film, like Titanic, Rose and Jack were not on that boat, but like we watched the movie Titanic and we feel like they were part of it, but in real life they weren't on that boat. You know, they were just fictional characters they added to the story to make it good. In The Conjuring, the Warrens were there for like 5 minutes, come around and looked around, went, oh yeah, and walked off. The whole film of The Conjuring, the Warrens are massively involved. They're the heroes, they're the saviours. In real life, they're just coming out and look and buggered off again. So it's like, explain that to them. So if the film is based on a true story, explain that it's not 100% real. It's normally going to be 50% and less is the real part of it. Sometimes it's even less than that. Sometimes you can have like 1% of the story is real and the rest of it's silly. Like the film called Cocaine Bear, where literally about 1% of that movie really happened, and the rest of it was just made up. But it's a funny movie as well. I wouldn't recommend watching that. There's a lot of blood and gore in that movie. But yeah, then once you've watched those films, spread out, see what they like. If they like the ghosty stuff, they go that way. Maybe show them something like Jaws as like a, because obviously it's a very old movie. They're going to look at it and go, what is that? That's a rubber shark. Where back in the day, you'd look at it and go, oh my God, that's amazing. But like now, they'll be like, but it'll make them laugh and you can have a chat. And there's a couple of jump scares in Jaws. Meg, that's another good one. If you want to watch a film about sharks and monsters attacking people, it's Jason Statham film called Meg, which is about a megalodon shark that like comes out of the ocean in a deep part of the ocean and starts attacking people. Again, the gore is not over the top. There is threat levels and danger in that, but it's not mega scary. Again, no naughtiness in it. It's a decent little film. It's quite a fun film. There's another one, bit on the scary side, but not too scary. Obviously, you can go back in time and let them watch things from like the 80s, like Gremlins and Poltergeist and films like that. Again, not too bad. You can deal with those sort of films, you know. So you can do that as well. So that's basically what I wanted to say, to give you a bit of advice on how I did it with my kids. It's that setting up the room right before you start, give them the spooky vibe, but you've got to be near that light switch to turn it on if they need you to stop the movie at any point. That's how I did it. And I said the aftercare is the most important part, letting them know that it's not all real, discussing the movie, discussing the parts of it, try and separate the movie from reality for them, let them know that this is a guy with face paint on and a funny little wig on and a funny suit on, that he's not really a scary monster clown. And that'll make them feel better after the movie. And then go on and watch whatever they want to watch. If you feel like they want to watch some darker stuff, let them watch the darker stuff. My daughter, who's now 13, loves horror movies and will literally watch anything I want to show her. But of course, being a parent, I know what not to show her. and I tell her not to watch anything without me telling her it's okay. So don't go to your friend's house and watch something stupid. So she has watched films like Scream, for instance, because I know she can deal with that. But she's still there with a pillow. Every time we watch anything, she's got a pillow. She has this thing where she sits down, pillow, blanket, and she's near me. She's on the sofa with me, and we watch them together. We never sort of don't watch them together. We're currently watching the House on Haunted Hill together, the TV show. It's on Netflix. That's quite a good one as well. Again, nothing naughty in it, no ultimate violence in it, but just a creepy, scary, lots of jump scares. And she loves it. But again, she sits there, and then the episode will finish. She's like, "Can we watch the next one? Can we watch the next one? Can we watch the next one?" She's like that. She loves these films, and she's not affected them at all. Yet my son is a little bit more reluctant with them. Like some of them he'll watch and he'll enjoy certain ones. Other ones he's just like, I don't want to watch that. And he just doesn't come in and watches them. So it's not his thing. He likes more actiony films anyway. He's a boy. He likes the actiony sort of stuff. Where my daughter, she likes a little bit of rom-com sort of stuff, and then she'll like these horror movies. And sometimes I think rom-coms are more adult than some of the horror movies, you know. But there we go. But anyway, guys, I really hope this video has helped you. It's gone a lot. I wanted it to be a 50-minute video, but I've been sitting there for half an hour. When I start, I just can't stop. But please do it carefully. Again, sit down, watch the film. So the main rules are watch the films first, set them up in a comfortable environment, stay with them, and talk about them after. They're the major things. And then watch something funny after the film's finished. They're the major things to do. As long as you remember that, do it. Enjoy yourselves, guys. I'll see you soon. Have some fun.